So I would like to request the participants on Zoom to, as far as possible, to put on your videos so we can see your moon-like faces. So today we are celebrating the Divine Appearance Day of Srila Narottama Das Thakur. Srila Prabhupada said in a conversation, quote, "The prayers of Narottama Das Thakur, this sound is above the material platform. It is directly from the spiritual platform. And there is no need of understanding the language. It is just like a thunderburst. Everyone can hear the sound of thunder. There is no misunderstanding. Similarly, these songs are above the material platform, and they crack like thunder within your heart. There is so much depth of meaning in Narottama Das Thakur's prayers." And in his purport to Srimad Bhagavatam 1:10-20, Srila Prabhupada wrote, "There are songs of Narottama Das Thakur, one of the acharyas in the Gaudiya Sampradaya, composed in simple Bengali language. But Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, another very learned acharya of the same Sampradaya, has approved the songs by Thakur Narottama Das to be as good as Vedic mantras." And then my last quote in this series from Srila Prabhupada's purport to one of Narottama Das Thakur's songs called Lala Samayi Prarthana. Quote, "This song was sung by Narottama Das Thakur, a great devotee and acharya in the Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya, the disciplic succession coming down from Lord Chaitanya. Narottama Das Thakur has written many songs which are recognized as authoritative by all Vaishnavas. He has sung these songs in simple Bengali language, but the purport, the deep meaning of his songs is very significant." And the Narottama Das Thakur sang in simple Bengali, or wrote in simple Bengali, to make these teachings accessible to everyone. He lived during the time during which Srila Jiva Goswami was the main teacher in Vrindavan, and the Goswamis were writing books in Sanskrit, which were not accessible to the general population. But Narottama Das Thakur's songs in simple Bengali language were accessible to those who spoke Bengali. So Narottama Das Thakur, is a great acharya in our Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya. One of the great acharyas of our sampradaya, particularly after the time of the Goswamis, the 6 Goswamis were direct disciples of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, but there are others who are also present at that time, such as Bhugarbha Goswami and Lokanath Goswami, whom Narottama Das eventually, he accepted Lokanath Goswami as his spiritual master almost immediately. But Lokanath Goswami was not accepting disciples, and it took quite a long time and great endeavor by Narottama Das to be accepted by Lokanath Goswami. Then, after them, there was another generation of acharyas who continued the mission of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and 3 in particular are prominent: Srinivasacharya, Shamananda Pandit, and Narottama Das Thakur. But for our line of spiritual preceptors, which includes Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, Baladev Vidyabhushan, Jagannath Das Babaji, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, and our Srila Prabhupada, Narottama Das Thakur is especially important because he is the Parampara Guru of Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. As described in Bhakti Ratnakar, during Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's pastimes, when he was in Keturi, which is now in Bangladesh, he started to shout the name Narottam, Narottam. Nara Uttama means topmost man. Just like we have Nara Singha, man lion. So Nara Uttama is topmost human being. And the Vaishnavas, even Nityananda Prabhu was astonished. What is Mahaprabhu saying? Whose name is he calling? And he asked Mahaprabhu, who is this Narottam? Who is this Narottam that you are glorifying, whose name you are chanting? And Mahaprabhu replied that in this place, in the future, a great Acharya would appear and continue the Sankirtan mission for all of us. At that time, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu took his bath in the river, the Padma River, which was right next to Keturi, and he invested his spiritual potency with Padma Devi. Padma Devi, the personified deity of that river, appeared before him, and he gave her charge of his prema and instructed her to keep it for him until that time when Narottam would come and take his bath in the river. And when that should happen, she should give that prema to him. And so it came to be, as Mahaprabhu had said, that many years later, within a Kayasta family in Keturi, Kayasta are aristocracy And Narottam's family were like kings. And Narottam was born with all the symptoms of a Mahapurusha. There are features of bodily physiognomy. One can read the personality of a person by their physiognomy. So this person had all the physical symptoms of a greatly elevated soul. And the Jyotish, the astrologer, came to read the chart. And he said that this was a very great personality. He would be a very great man, and he would be respected and honored by all for his great learning. But extreme care should be taken because there are indications of madness. You should be very careful, the astrologer said, that he not go near water, rivers, streams, ponds. Keep him away from such bodies of water. Otherwise, he could become mad. And so it was that the child's parents were very careful to raise him and keep him away from such bodies of water. And they were successful for quite some years, until one night Narottam had a dream or vision that Sri Nityananda Prabhu told him to go immediately and take his bath in the Padma River. So in the middle of the night, Narottam got out of bed, ran down to the river, and dove into that water. Padma Devi appeared and gave him the prema that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had left with her for him. And he became completely transformed, filled with transcendental ecstasy. He started to cry. His hair was standing on end. He was trembling, shaking, shivering, calling out, Krishna, Krishna, and also Gauranga, Gauranga, again and again. Then he returned to the bank of the river and fell unconsciousness. He was going between consciousness and unconsciousness, exhibiting all the ecstatic symptoms in the middle of the night and calling out, Krishna, Krishna. So the people ran. Some heard, they heard the commotion, and they ran and found that it was the son of the king. He had gone mad. His parents came. All these years we were endeavoring to keep him away from the river, they said. But now we have been unsuccessful. Just see, the prince has gone mad. So they kept him inside the palace and were trying to cure him. They brought a very qualified physician, a Kaviraj. He felt Narottam's pulse and diagnosed him with madness. His parents asked the Kaviraj, Will you be able to cure him? Will you be able to save him? And the Giriraja apologized. I'm very sorry, but there is no cure for prema, for love of God. I cannot help. And so Narottama's parents became very worried. Narottama was just crying for Krishna. He wanted to see Krishna, to meet Krishna, to be with Krishna, to serve Krishna. He was filled with love for Krishna and for Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Nityananda Prabhu appeared to him in a dream and instructed him to go. And so, again, in the middle of the night, he got up, walked out of the house, and just started walking toward Vrindavan. Along the way, he had another vision of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, instructing him to learn from Jiva Goswami, who was in Vrindavan writing transcendental literature. So Narottama went to Vrindavan. We're summarizing here. He took shelter of Srila Jiva Goswami, who taught him the science of devotional service, particularly the Bhagavatam, the science of bhakti as taught by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, by Srila Sanatana Goswami, by Srila Rupa Goswami. Jiva Goswami is renowned as one of India's greatest philosophers. There were two other students, friends, with whom Narottama was studying, Shamananda and Srinivas. After some time in Vrindavan, Narottama became very attracted to the personality of Srila Lokanath Das Goswami, who is sometimes called the seventh Goswami. Sometimes we also call our Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakura as the seventh Goswami. When Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami was writing Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, he went to the six Goswamis individually and asked, "Please give me your blessings. I'm going to compile Chaitanya Charitamrita, the glories of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Please give me your blessings." So individually, they all gave their blessings. Then Sri Radha Madan Mohan also gave their blessings with the falling of their flower garland. And Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami went to Lokanath Goswami, who was one of the first Goswamis to arrive in Vrindavan on the order of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He and Bhugarbha Goswami arrived first, before Rupa, Sanatan, Raghunath Das or Gopal Bhatta, sent by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu when Mahaprabhu was still a Grihastha in his Navadvip Leela. They were actually from East Bengal, Bangladesh. Finally, after giving up their responsibility in East Bengal, they came to Navadvip and said to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, "Now we are surrendered unto you. We just want to stay with you and serve you here in your Sankirtan mission. I want you to go to Vrindavan," he told them. So, very reluctantly, they dragged themselves away from him and settled in Vrindavan. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had two missions, many missions, internal and external. But of his external missions, to preach the chanting of the holy name, and then in Vrindavan, to rediscover the pastime places of the Lord when he was manifest 5,000 years ago. So Narottama was entrusted to the Goswamis, beginning with Bhugarbha and Lokanath Goswami. Narottama became very attracted to and inspired by Lokanath Goswami. When Kaviraj Goswami asked Lokanath, "Please bless me to write Chaitanya Charitamrita," Lokanath Goswami said, "Yes, you have my blessings, but you must not mention my name in the book." And so Kaviraj Goswami, bound by this instruction, could not mention Lokanath Goswami's name, and thus it may not appear. It does not appear, although he was contemporary with the other Goswamis. So Narottama approached Lokanath Goswami and requested, "Please, will you accept me as your disciple? Will you give me Diksha?" But Lokanath Goswami refused. "No, I'm not accepting any Diksha disciples. Please do not entertain this thought any longer. It is impossible." Narottama was heartbroken. He approached him again and again, and repeatedly Lokanath Goswami refused him. He tried to render different services to Lokanath Goswami, but Lokanath always refused those services. Finally, Narottama decided to clean the area of the forest near the Yamuna, where every morning Lokanath Goswami would evacuate. Narottama would sweep the area clean, spread dry sand all around, and keep Yamuna mud. Perhaps Lokanath would like to use the mud to clean his hands. And in this way, he rendered very, very humble and intimate service. And this went on for about a year. Lokanath didn't know who was doing it. So one day, Lokanath, who was very old by then, decided to hide himself in the forest to see who it was. And when Narottama came and started to clean the area and make different arrangements, Lokanath called out, "Who is there?" "It is I, Narottama Das, your servant." "Why are you doing this? Do not do this anymore." Then Narottama fell at Lokanath's feet and said, "Please accept me as your disciple." Lokanath Goswami had also been requested by Jiva Goswami to accept Narottama. And he had also received other indications that he should make one exception to his rule to not accept disciples. And so he accepted Narottama Das. And he gave him initiation. Thus, in Narottama's song Guru Vandana, we sing daily, Lokanath Lokera Jivana. Lokanath literally means Lord of the world, and he's glorifying his spiritual master, Lokanath Goswami. After some time, the Vaishnavas of Bengal, headed by Janavamata, the wife of Nityananda Prabhu, requested Jiva Goswami, "Please, you are there in Vrindavan." By this time, Rupa Sanatan, Raghunath Das, Raghunath Bhatta, and Gopal Bhatta had all departed. Jiva Goswami was younger. He was the nephew of Rupa and Sanatan. And so he was the leader of the Vaishnavas in Vrindavan. So Janavamata wrote, "You have all these wonderful literatures written by the Goswamis. In Bengal, we are deprived of this nectar. So please, will you make an arrangement that we can have this literature in Bengal?" So Jiva had all of the books copied and then told his three prominent students, Narottama, Srinivas, and Shamananda, "Go to Bengal and spread the teachings of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Spread the teachings of the Goswamis everywhere." He graduated them as his students and gave each one a different title. Srinivas became Srinivasacharya. Shamananda became Shamananda Prabhu. And Narottama became Narottama Das Thakur. They were given their degrees and sent out preaching with the books. And so the three traveled from Vrindavan to Bengal by bullock cart. Along the way, different adventures took place, including all the books being stolen by a king who was also a dacoit, a thief. That was a great calamity. All of the books were stolen, but they were retrieved after much endeavor, and the king was made into a Vaishnava by Srinivasacharya, who stayed in that kingdom and initiated thousands of disciples, establishing Gaudiya Vaishnavism there. Shamananda Pandit went on to Orissa, where he established Vaishnavism far and wide, and temples all over the land. His headquarters were in Gopijana Vallabhapur. He also initiated kings. And Narottama returned to Keturi, where his cousin had become king and inherited his family's wealth. Narottama sat under a tree outside the village, and when the people came and saw him, they exclaimed, "Hey, Narottama is back." The news spread that Narottama had returned and had become a great acharya and devotee. So thousands of people flocked there for his blessings. His nephew also came and laid his fortune at Narottama's feet. Narottama didn't accept, but he did have his cousin build a beautiful temple in Keturi and use his wealth to organize the first grand Gaur Purnima festival. For the festival, invitations were sent all over India. Wherever there were Gaudiya Vaishnavas, followers of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, messengers were sent with invitations. And so for Gaur Purnima, there was a huge camp set up with accommodations and prasad for thousands of Vaishnavas. All the acharyas and mahants of that time were present. And for days there were discussions of Krishna Katha and Gaudiya Vaishnava philosophy and Siddhanta. Because all the Gaudiya Vaishnavas were so spread out in different places and quite isolated from one another, there were different understandings. But through this meeting and istagosti and discussion together, they were able to discuss and understand things in a common way, according to the teachings of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and the Goswamis. Janavamata presided over the assembly as the honored chairperson. During the day, they would discuss, and then in the evenings, they would have wonderful kirtans. Narottama Das Thakur had a very, very beautiful singing voice and was a very expert transcendental musician. He developed his own style of kirtan called Garnahati, and our own kirtan style is taken from that Garnahati style. Not exactly the same, but derived from it. There are other kirtan styles that are more ornamental and extensive in their articulation of the syllables. But this is a faster moving and shorter type of kirtan, more suited to the general mass of people to chant and hear, and take the Maha Mantra and the different songs that are there. So all of these great personalities were in these wonderful kirtans. Narottama led the kirtans, and his followers played the instrument. And in the middle of one of these kirtans, many exalted devotees, not everyone, but many, saw the Panchatattva appear, dancing in ecstasy. Hundreds of devotees saw this with their own eyes. And so an incredible ecstasy flooded everyone's heart. Imagine if in Houston, Srila Prabhupada appeared in the middle of a kirtan, what it would do to the Vaishnavas. So that's what happened in that festival. The Panchatattva appeared in the kirtan and were dancing in great ecstasy and reciprocating the loving affection of the Vaishnavas. Narottama Das Thakur initiated thousands of disciples, including many caste Brahmins. This invoked the anger of the caste Brahmins because Narottama was a Kayastha, a Vaishya. How could a Vaishya initiate Brahmins and be their guru? This was their caste consciousness. Obviously, Narottama didn't think much of this Brahmin by birth philosophy, and neither did Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So the caste Brahmin community wanted Narottama punished for this offense, which according to them was going against Dharma, going against Vedic injunctions. And they went to the king and told him, "You are the king, you are the protector of Dharma, you have to punish this heretic for his misbehavior." The king said, "Well, how can I be sure that what you are saying is true? I'm sure he has his explanations as well. Let us take all the leading pundits of the region and debate with him. And if he loses the debate, then we can punish him." So, yeah, I'm a little concerned about time. Vincent?
Yes.
How much time can we have?
We usually go as late as 8:30, so we still got some time.
Okay, good. There's a lot to say about Narottama Das Thakur for our purification. So the king set out with an army, not only of soldiers, but also of pundits, towards the place of Narottama Das Thakur. While they were on the way, however, some of Narottama's leading disciples got wind of what was happening, and they didn't want their guru to be disturbed by this unnecessary debate. They were regularly debating with these caste Brahmins, and they had had enough of it. They didn't want Narottama to be disturbed by the arrogance of the king and the army and all that. So sort of a funny story. Two of his leading disciples set up a shop along the way, selling commodities that a traveling party would need: leaf cups and plates, clay pots, things they could use for eating. So some of the king's people came into the village, and the shop was placed there at the entrance. Oh, here are plates, here are cups. And they went over and asked, what is the price? The shopkeepers responded in very high Sanskrit. And so these Brahmins were impressed. Oh, how do you know Sanskrit? What do you mean? The shopkeepers asked. Everyone here speaks Sanskrit. The caste Brahmins heard the perfect compositions of sentences and pronunciation of Sanskrit words better than theirs. And then and there, the shopkeepers started to debate with them. First about Sanskrit, and then about language and logic. And the pundits were feeling very uneasy that these shopkeepers are so learned and eloquent. We shouldn't be embarrassed by them defeating us, they considered. And so they left and reported to the king that it appeared that there were very, very learned people in the area. Even the shopkeepers were such great pundits. Imagine how learned the pundits themselves must be. And so they decided not to humiliate themselves and avoided the encounter with Narottama Das Thakur and his disciples. There was one great pundit among the caste Brahmins who were causing trouble, Ganga Narayan Chakrabarti. He went and debated with Narottama, and Narottama defeated him, and he surrendered and became Narottama Das Thakur's leading disciple. There was another personality, Ramachandra Kaviraj, who was a disciple of Narottama's associate, Srinivasacharya. And Narottama was very, very attached to his association. They were so intimate that they would eat from the same plate. They were together constantly. In one of Narottama's songs, we have Ramachandra Sangamage Narottama Das. He's always desiring the association of Ramachandra. That means Ramachandra Kaviraj, the disciple of Srinivas Acharya. These two great personalities, Ganga Narayan and Ramachandra, were very intimate. Ganga Narayan was a disciple, and so he went in one way to the northeast, to Manipur, and spread Krishna consciousness all over Manipur. Even to this day, in every town and village of Manipur, there are Gaudiya Vaishnava temples with Radha Krishna deities, Gaur Nitai deities, Jagannath Baladev and Subhadra. Everyone wears Gaudiya Vaishnava tilak. I've heard from devotees who've gone there that it's amazing. And of course, our dear late godbrother, Srila Bhakti Swarup Damodar Swami Maharaj, he was from Manipur, and he returned there and did a lot of preaching. But this this creation of Manipur as a Vaishnava state was due to the preaching of Narottama Das Thakur's disciple Ganga Narayan Chakrabarti, and with him Ramachandra Kaviraj. At one point, Srinivasacharya decided that he would go from Vishnupur, where he had recovered the stolen books, to Vrindavan to see his guru, Gopal Bhatta Goswami. And he wanted his disciple Ramachandra Kaviraj to go with him. And so he sent a note to Narottama, I'm going on pilgrimage, and I want my disciple Ramachandra to come with me. Narottama was heartbroken that his intimate companion, friend, and associate was going. Ramachandra had to go. It was the order of his guru. And after Ramachandra left, Narottama became internally absorbed. When they were in Vrindavan, Srinivasacharya left his body, entered into samadhi, and almost immediately thereafter, Ramachandra Kaviraj also entered into samadhi. When the news came back to Narottama's disciples in Kaituri, they were in a great dilemma. They had to inform Narottama that Ramachandra had entered into samadhi. But at the same time, they knew that if they informed him, he would also enter into samadhi. So it was very difficult for them, but they had an obligation. Their guru would want to know, and he would be angry if they didn't inform him. So they informed him, and predictably, he felt completely lost in the absence of his dear friend and associate. He entered into samadhi, and so, full of woe, his disciples started to prepare the funeral pyre. It is interesting that they wanted to cremate his body because usually a spiritual master is placed in samadhi. But sometimes they did it because they were afraid that the Muslims would come and desecrate the remains. Anyway, they were placing his body onto the funeral pyre, and some caste Brahmins came and started saying, just see this Narottama. He made such an offense by initiating Brahmins, and now the Lord has punished him justly by killing him. They were speaking in this way, and the disciples were so hurt hearing this harsh criticism of their guru. Ganga Narayan Chakravarti and the other disciples started to pray, Dear Narottama Das Thakura, this person is there criticizing. They are paving their way to hell. Will you not give them your mercy? Will you not deliver them? It was a very elevated prayer, rather than thinking, will you not kill them or punish them? And so Narottama came back to life. He sat up on the funeral pyre, got down, and initiated those Brahmins. They paid their obeisances to him and completely surrendered to him, and he initiated them. But still, he was grieving the loss, the departure of Ramachandra Kaviraj. And so sometime later, he was taking bath in the Padma River with his disciples and instructed them, I want you to pour water over me and don't stop. And so they poured water over him, and he started to melt, to turn into milk, actually. And as they were pouring, he was dissolving. And so it was impossible for them that here we are the ones who are causing our guru to disappear. And at the same time, we've been ordered not to stop. And so with tears in their eyes, they continued to pour the sacred water over him. And their guru was dissolving, turning into milk. Someone took a loda of that milk And so if you go to Kaituri to this day, you can see the temple with his deities who were installed during the Gaur Purnima festival. And you can see the Dud Samadhi of Narottama Das Thakur, where that milk, which was not different from him, was placed into Samadhi, and a memorial was constructed. So I have my own bit of, you could say, memorabilia from Narottama Das Thakur. This conch shell. Now, at the Great Gaur Purnima festival at Kaituri, 6 pairs of deities, Radha Krishna deities, were installed, and 1 pair was Radha Vraja Mohan, which were sent to Vrindavan. And Narottama Das Thakur had disciples in Vrindavan who were worshiping Radha Vraja Mohan. And until recently, that temple was very, very poor. Sort of out of the way, ISKCON devotees were not aware of it. And then one year, Indradumya Swami, His Holiness Indradumya Swami, discovered it. And, he and his disciples went and did wonderful kirtan and gave some donations. And it was Maharaj's regular program that after Gaur Purnima, the actual date of Gaur Purnima, he would come and stay with me in Carpinteria, and then we would go to Laguna Beach for the regional Gaur Purnima festival. So Gaur Purnima is not that long after Narottama Das Thakur's appearance day, and I had Narottama Das Thakur's picture out on my altar. And Indradumya Swami saw it, and he told me about the Radha Vraja Mohan temple and how poor it was. And so I offered and gave quite a good donation. I said they were, anyway, I won't go into detail about how poor they were, but they were really poor. So I gave, a good donation that could be put in fixed deposit. And just from the interest of the fixed deposit, they could afford, fruits and flowers for the deities. They could afford to make new outfits for the deities, which they couldn't afford earlier. And in reciprocation, the pujari gave this conch shell to Indradumya Swami for me. And this conch shell was sent by Narottama Das Thakur to Vrindavan for the service of the deities there, Radha Vraja Mohan. Now, Indradumya Swami said that we don't know. This conch shell might have been blown by Narottama Das Thakur or Srinivasacharya or Janava Mata. It's very possible. But for sure, we do know that he sent it with the other paraphernalia for the deities. And, by some causeless mercy, it has come to me. And I don't think I'll demonstrate now, but it has 2 pitches, like a higher key and a lower key. It's just something about this conch shell. So yes, it's a very special bit of mercy that has come my way. All right, Hare Krishna. So I think we have a little time left. And so if any of you wish, you can ask questions or share comments.
Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances at your divine lotus feet. Could you share, Maharaj, there is all the pastime of Narottama Das Thakur is heart-touching, but there must be some pastime that it's really very dear to your heart, if you can kindly share.
I don't know. I mean, I just think of the beginning, when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was calling out Narottama, 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 nobody knew. And then Nityananda Prabhu asked him, who is this Narottama whose name you're calling? And then he explained the future. And then he deposited his prema with Padma Devi to deliver to him. But Srila Prabhupada said that of all of his, of all the bhajans we have, Gaudiya Vaishnava bhajans, his favorite is Hari Hari Beef Fillet. So maybe because that was Srila Prabhupada's favorite, maybe we can just read that and sort of try to imbibe Narottama Das Thakur's mood through Srila Prabhupada. I won't sing it. Well, I'll recite the Bengali. The actual name of this song is Ishtadev Vigyapati, prayer to one's beloved from Prarthana. Narottama Das Thakur wrote 2 books of songs. One is Prarthana, and the other is Prema Bhakti Chandrika. Well, maybe to save time, I'll just read the translation. O Lord Hari, I have wasted my life. Although I have taken this rare human birth, I have not served Radha and Krishna. And thus I have knowingly drunk poison. Well, this next verse I have to read the Bengali. Golokara Premadana, Harinama Sankirtana, Ratina Janmilo Kene Taya, Samsara Vishanale, Divanishi Hiyajwali, Judaite na Koinu Pai. The treasure of divine love in Goloka Vrindavan has descended as the congregational chanting of Lord Hari's holy name. Why did my attraction for that chanting never come about? Day and night, my heart burns in the fire of the poison of worldliness, and I have not accepted the means for relieving it. 3. I have to read the Bengali, it's just so beautiful. Rajendra Nandana ye, Sachi Sutta Hoilo se, Balaram Hoilo Nitai. Dina Hina Yata Chilo, Hariname Udarilo, Tara Sakshi Jagai Madhai. Lord Krishna, the son of the king of Vraja, became the son of Sachi, and Balaram became Nitai. The holy name delivered all those souls who were lowly and wretched. The 2 sinners, Jagai and Madhai, are evidence of this. Haha Prabhu Nanda Sutta, Rishavanu Sutta Yuta, Karuna Koroho Ebaro, Narottama Dasa koi, na tehilo rangapai, toma vine ke ache amara. O Lord Krishna, son of Nanda, accompanied by the daughter of Rishabhanu, please be merciful to me. Narottam Das says, O Lord, please do not push me away from your reddish lotus feet. For who is my beloved except for you? Beautiful. Srila Prabhupada's favorite.
Thank you very much, Maharaj.
Are there any other questions or comments? Oh, Shamachandra Das has his hand up. Shamachandra
Yeah,
Das?
can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I had a
Yeah.
question.
Well, can you do something that we can hear you better?
Is that better?
Yes, it is.
Okay. So was Narottam Das Thakur, he was the only disciple of
Lokanath Goswami, yes.
Lokanath Swami?
Yeah,
And
to-
why did he make that? Oh,
Why did Lokanath Goswami vow not to accept disciples?
yes, Guru Maharaj.
Well, I can think of two reasons. One is out of profound humility, and the other is that he was so absorbed in bhajan. It's described he would hardly eat or sleep. He would just be absorbed in chanting and hearing and remembering Krishna day and night. And he may not have wanted to be diverted from those activities by having to care for a disciple. I haven't read it anywhere, but I'm just imagining.
But you said he sent off 3 devotees. Lokanath sent off three devotees to into Bengal. So I thought that maybe they were also, those 2 other devotees were also his
No,
disciples.
Jiva Goswami sent those 3 devotees.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry, I get confused. Thank you, Guru Maharaj.
Hare Krishna. Oh, Radharani Dasi, your hand is up.
Yes, it looks like Madan Mohan Mohini actually had a question.
I know.
He said,
Your video is stopped. Your microphone is unmuted.
can you hear me? Haribol?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, sorry. Somebody said it was muted. So Madan Mohan Mohini actually had a question, so I was going to read it. She says, Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj, I have a question. Why did Srila Narottam Das Thakur leave in that unique way, turning into milk specifically? Thank you so much.
I think I can answer that question. I have a nice book here. There's a slight chance the answer might be here. This is called The Glorious Life of Srila Narottam Das Thakur by Sitala Dasi. even this book doesn't give a reason why. It just describes the incident. Yeah, I don't know why. Yeah. Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Oh, someone asked what my favorite song is. I don't know where that came from. But I always like this one, Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu. Yeah, yeah. Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu by Kwaramori. I could read that translation. Savarna Shigara Pada Padmi, a prayer to the lotus feet of Sri Gauranga and his associates from Prarthana. Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Daya Kwaramori, Toma Bina Kedayalu Jagat Samasare. My dear Lord Chaitanya, please be merciful to me, because who can be more merciful than your lordship within these three worlds? Patita Pavana Hetu Tava Avatar, Mo Sama Patita Prabhu Na Paibe Ar. Your incarnation is just to reclaim the fallen souls. But I assure you that you will not find a greater fallen soul than me. Therefore, my claim is first. Haha Prabhu Nityananda Premananda Sukhi, Kripa Valo Kana Koro Ami Boro Dukhi. My dear Lord Nityananda, you are always joyful in spiritual bliss. Since you always appear very happy, I have come to you because I am most unhappy. If you kindly put your glance over me, then I may also become happy. 4. Daya Koro Sita Pati Advaita Gosai Tava Kripa Bale Pai Chaitanya Nitai. My dear Advaita Prabhu, husband of Sita, you are so kind. Please be merciful to me. If you are kind to me, naturally Lord Chaitanya and Nityananda will also be kind to me. Ha Swarup Sanatana Rupa Raghunath Bhatti Yuga Shrijiva Ha Prabhu Lokanath. O Swarup Damodar, personal secretary of Lord Chaitanya. O 6 Goswamis, Sri Sanatan Goswami, Sri Rupa Goswami, Sri Raghunath Das Goswami, Sri Raghunath Bhatta Goswami, Sri Gopal Bhatta Goswami, and Sri Jiva Goswami. O Lokanath Goswami, my beloved spiritual master, I pray for your mercy also. Daya Koro Sri Acharya Prabhu Srinivas, Ramachandra Sangamage Narottama Das. O Srinivas Acharya, successor to the 6 Goswamis, please be merciful to me. Narottama Das always desires the company of Ramachandra Kaviraj. Yeah, I always like that one. I mean, I love them all, but I guess that's a favorite. Thank you. Hari Priya has raised her hand. You can unmute, yes.
No, I have to. Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to your divine grace. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Guru Maharaj, thank you for wonderful narration of today's class for Narottama Thakur. I always felt very close to his life history. I always liked And I've been reading about him, and so I could relate a lot to your class today. So Guru Maharaj, my question is, there are different acharyas and they have different disciples, so many different disciples. Then in the Guru Parampara that we see on the last page of introduction of Bhagavad Gita, where Srila Prabhupada comes on 32 number, it's connecting Krishna to his name. In that, Narottama Das Thakur's name doesn't come, and although he is a very prominent acharya in our line. So I was just wondering, like, how his name doesn't come, because 6 Goswamis come who are contemporary to him. His name doesn't come. So, like, how does the disciplic succession go? And what about the other disciples who are notable? And also, I wanted to know who was his very prominent disciple that we could relate to, another person, his disciple of Narottama Das.
Yeah, his prominent disciple was Ganga Narayan Chakravarti.
Okay.
And I mean, the list, there are like many branches of the parampara, you could say. And they all can't be recorded there in that list, which we find in the Bhagavad Gita as it is. But they're very much our gurus, very much so. And yeah, we depend on their guidance, and we pray for their mercy. Very much our gurus and heroes.
Yes. Thank you.
Matthew?
Hare Krishna. I heard that our singing the pranam mantra for Srila Prabhupada and the Panchatattva before Harinam Sankirtan is modeled after Narottama Das Thakur's kirtans. So I'm just wondering how the invocation that he sang during those kirtans, what did he sing before? Thank you.
Oh, well, yeah, I'm quite sure he would have sung the Panchatattva mantra, Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasati Gaur Bhaktivinoda. And I would imagine that he would have sung a pranam mantra for his gurus, Lokanath Goswami, and also Jiva Goswami was his guru. Yeah.
Excellent.
Sundar Gopal Das. It's like being in Houston again.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Thank you very much for wonderful narrations of pastimes of Srila Narottama Das Thakur. I am also reading this book right now, and Syam Sundar Prabhu is also narrating this pastimes in the morning, our Japa call. So we are really relishing this wonderful pastimes. And I especially wanted to thank you for the darshan of that conch shell. It's very, very special. I can imagine that it must have been blown by many, many exalted devotees. Thank you very much for darshan of that conch. I wish you would have also blown it. Thank you very much.
I can. Like I mentioned, it has 2 pitches, a lower pitch and a higher pitch. We'll see what comes out.
Okay.
Oh, that's the lower one.
Okay. Die.
Let's see if I can do the higher one.
Nice. Thank you much.
That was a good one. That was one of the best requests I ever got.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you.
Any other question? Oh, yes, Shamohini.
Hare
Shamohini.
Krishna Maharaj, please accept my most deepest respect. All glories to your wonderful service. What a beautiful and touching class this has been.
Thank you. Sunita Jajodia. Where did she go? Oh,
Oh, I'm sorry. Can you hear me now?
yeah. Yeah, please.
Okay, sorry. As I said, said I hope you heard my respects to you. As always, wonderful class.
Yeah, I heard. Shamohini, was that all you wanted to say? I mean, I'm fine if it is.
For some reason, it gets disconnected. No, so the power of his humility and the power of the Vaishnava, the blessings of the Vaishnavas, because no, certainly he had all of that.
Yes. I don't know. Are you asking something? I'm not. I might have missed something.
Yes. No, I'm having some issues with my phone actually. So basically, if you can just say something about his humility and the power that I made with the Vaishnava blessings that he received from his spiritual master and certainly other Vaishnavas. So basically, the power. If you could say something about the importance of a Vaishnava prayers and blessings, and of course, the importance of humility.
Yeah. Well, he really showed his humility the way he would clean up after Lokanath Goswami, the place where Lokanath Goswami would pass stool. He would clean that place. And as I mentioned, he would put fresh sand there from the Yamuna and even mud from the Yamuna, because that's how in the old, even recently when I visited the Dalmia's house in New Delhi, they had mud in the washroom for washing hands. So he would do that very humble menial service for his guru. And on account of that extremely humble, selfless service, his guru made an exception and accepted him as his only disciple. And certainly by humility, we get blessings. And he got so many blessings. Thank you. So, Sunita Jajodia, are you still with your hand up? Oh, now her camera's off.
I'm sorry, Maharaj, it was by mistake. I
Okay.
didn't raise the hand, it was by mistake.
Okay.
Sorry.
A harmless mistake. Oh, Malati Dasi, is your hand up?
Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. Thank you for your wonderful class. I had a question like Srila Narottama Das Thakur, many a times he got instructions in his dreams to go to Vrindavan, how he has to take bath in the Padma River and all. Like we cannot compare with the acharyas, but still, like now also there are sometimes we get instructions from our guru. So how bona fide those instructions are? We should really take it seriously, or yes, Guruma, sorry.
In a dream, like if
Yeah,
your guru gives you instruction in your
yeah,
dream.
sometimes in a dream, or sometimes when you are performing a Guru Puja or something like that. So if you get some instructions or some, then how bona fide you should feel, or you are just in like you are just thinking about it, it's your thoughts. So I just wanted to clear how we have to take this instruction. Like.
Well, if the instruction is in line with Sadhu Shastra and Guru, then you can take it as a genuine instruction if it's within your capacity to execute it.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
I mean, Srila Prabhupada said generally we should not take dreams very seriously, but if the spiritual master appears in a dream, we should take it as Krishna's special mercy.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
All right, so I think we've come to the end of our time, and not wanting to displease our hosts, I suppose we can end with Vaishnav Pranam. Winston?
Yes, Maharaj.
Shall we end now?
Sure. If no one else has any questions, we can conclude.
I'm not seeing any questions.
Maharaj, if you allow, I have one final question, if you don't.
Okay.
Out of many wonderful pastimes, Narottama Das Thakur had a very, very intimate relationship with Ramchandra Kaviraj. Could you say something about it? What can we learn from that relationship?
Yes. I would say we can derive more than one lesson from it. One is that Ramachandra Kaviraj was a disciple of Srinivasacharya, who was, like a god brother in the sense that they were both students of Jiva Goswami. And so we can learn from that transcendental emotions and service go beyond designations. And also, in terms of generations, Ramachandra Kaviraj was like, Srinivasacharya and Narottama Das Thakur were peers. So in that sense, Ramachandra Kaviraj was like a disciple in terms of generations. But he was so advanced that they were friends, very close, deep friends. And so on that elevated platform of love of God, the usual etiquette that governs ordinary well, no devotees ordinary, but, regular devotees, it didn't operate. It didn't operate. And Narottama Das Thakur was so attached to Ramchandra Kaviraj, as his disciples knew it, that if he heard that Ramachandra Kaviraj had departed, then he would want to depart too. He wouldn't want to live without him. So, yeah, we pray to have such attachment for Vaishnavas.
Thank you very much, Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
So again, if there are no more comments or questions, we can conclude with the Vaishnava Pranam. Let us offer our respectful obeisances unto all the Vaishnava devotees of the Lord, who are just like desire trees, who can fulfill the desires of everyone and are full of compassion for the fallen conditioned souls. Vanchakalpa Trubhyascha
Vaishnavevyo namo namaha.
Thank you, Guru Maharaj.
Holiness Giriraja.
Jai. Jai.
Jai.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj.